The film begins with Levon waking up, and we learn that Levon sleeps in his car because he doesn't have a home. After that, he goes to the construction site because he works as a construction foreman. He sits among the workers and motivates them to work, and the workers get encouraged and start working. Then Levon goes to greet the Garcia family, the owners of the construction company he used to work with. They run the company and don't allow anyone outside the family to work with them in management. And the owner's daughter, named Jane, asks her father for money because she wants to throw a party for the kids after she and her friends finish the first semester. Initially, Garcia refused because he didn't see it as necessary for his daughter to have a party just for finishing the first semester, but he couldn't stand his daughter's disappointment and gives her the credit card. At the same time, a gang arrives at the construction site and grabs one of the workers, beating him mercilessly because he owes money that he hasn't paid yet. Lefon saw what happened and firmly instructed the gang to leave the worker alone so he could do his job, but they told him to mind his own business. So, Lefon threw a bucket of nails at them and started to fight them, beating them up severely. The rest of the gang members were entering the place, so Lefon raised his rifle at them and said, "I spoke to you politely at first, but you forced me to act this way. Take yourselves and leave. It's better for you, and don't come back here again." Indeed, they quietly took themselves and left. After that, Jane came out to talk to Lefon, as she was impressed by his fighting style. She gave him food, saying, "My grandmother made this food especially for you," and her grandmother knew about Lefon's situation. Lefon thanks Jane and her grandmother, telling her, "I will always be there for you." After work, he goes to visit his daughter, Merritt. We learn that Lefon's wife passed away, and since then, the maternal grandfather has been taking care of Merritt. Lefon visits his daughter once a week, takes her out, and she is happy to see her father. She gets into the car and waits while her grandfather, named Ross, talks to Lefon. Lefon asks him, "Why are you having a party at the house for Merritt today?" "Even though today is the day I take her out," Ross tells him, "I forgot today was your day with Merritt, but I really don't want her to go out with you because you weren't there for your wife when she needed you, and surely you won't be there for Merritt when she needs you. Do you want to hit me for saying this because you only speak with your fists? You are a danger to your daughter." Lefon keeps his composure because he understands that Ross is trying to provoke him into hitting him so that custody can be fully transferred to the grandfather. He spends time with his daughter and takes her to a restaurant to eat, giving her a gift that contains a picture of her with her mother. Merritt tells him, "I was starting to forget what my mom looked like because my grandfather removed all her pictures from the house." Lefon tells her, "Your mom looked a lot like you." Afterwards, Lefon goes to meet the lawyer and tells him what happened with Ross. The lawyer tells him, "Ross was trying to provoke you into hitting him, because if you did, the court would consider you aggressive and dangerous to Merritt, and they would give full custody to Ross. But I have more bad news. The court has ordered to reduce the visitation time with your daughter, and they want to make it just 1 hour every 2 weeks because they believe you suffered a brain injury during your military service. The court is also not pleased that you don't own a house." The lawyer asks him why Ross hates him so much. Lefon tells him, "Because Ross thinks I killed my wife, which is not true. My wife died by suicide and she had been depressed." The lawyer tells him that Ross has a large legal team, and they will keep draining you until they take your daughter. The best solution is to negotiate with Ross, but Lefon does not agree. He takes out $10,000 that he had saved and instructs the lawyer to take action. We learn that Lefon saves all the money he earns from his job to pay the lawyer for his daughter's case. He rents a simple room with just a bed and a TV to increase his chances of success in the case. At night, Jen and her friends go out to a bar to celebrate. In the same place, there is a gang member named Faber, and his sister Claire tells him that he wants to kidnap a special girl. "Because my boss wants a pretty girl to work in prostitution and make a lot of money from her." Jen asks the bartender, whose name is Mark, about an empty table. Mark tells her, "If you tell me your name, I'll clear a table for you." She replies, "My name is Jen." After Jen leaves, Mark talks to Faber and tells him about Jen's description. Later, Jen's friend Nina gets sick from drinking, so Jen takes her to the bathroom and leaves her to throw up. Nina gets upset because her makeup is ruined, so Jen tells her to fix her makeup at her own pace and that she'll return to the table. As she's leaving, Faber approaches her, drugs her, and kidnaps her, taking her with him in his car. 2 days later, Levon goes to the construction site. Garcia and Carla's wife tell him that their daughter has been missing for 2 days and they've reported it to the police but still can't find her. Carla says that a policewoman, who is her relative, told her that the police don't pay much attention to kidnapping cases because the chances of recovering the missing victims are low. Carla and Garcia ask Levon for help, saying, "Try to find our daughter. You served in the army and are used to dealing with bad guys." Levon said, "That was a long time ago. I'm a different person now." So Garcia offers him a lot of money to agree, and although Levon needs the money, he refuses because he doesn't want to get into trouble and fights, as that would weaken his position in his daughter's case. But he indeed takes himself and goes to meet a person named Johnny. Johnny is truly an old friend of Levon, and Levon once actually saved him from death, but he couldn't save Johnny's eye, so he can only see with one eye. Levon tells him about Jane and says she's a very kind and beautiful girl. Johnny tells him, if you really intend to save her, then you must prepare and give it your all. And may God be with those who kidnapped her, because they will face Levon. Levon then goes to meet Garcia at his house and finds him sitting, drinking, and watching videos of Jane playing music. Levon tells him, "Many people have abandoned me in my life, and my life was hard after my wife died and I left the military service. But you, Garcia, and your family endured me and employed me, and I consider you like my family. That's why I promise you, I will bring your daughter back home." Levon then goes to take a seat in the bar where Jane used to sit and notices that Mark, the bartender, is taking a lot of bribes from people and selling illegal substances to customers. He feels that this man might be working with the gang and might know something, and decides to investigate further. He decides to follow him at night after he finishes work and keeps tailing him to his house. Mark sits and consumes illegal substances, and Levon breaks into the house pointing a gun at him. Mark asks him, "Are you, a cop?" Levon replies, "You'll wish I were a cop after what I'm going to do to you," and shows him a picture of Jane, demanding him to talk and say where Jane is. Mark told him, "The police came and questioned me, and I told them that the girl returned because of the amount of drinking, and then I left the place, and I don't know anything else." Levon said to him, "I don't like liars," and he takes him and puts him in the bathtub, choking him to make him talk. So Mark tells him, "The men you're looking for are dangerous people." Levon doesn't care and orders him to talk and reveal their names. But suddenly, two of Mark's friends arrive at the house and hear Mark screaming, so they grab their weapons and a shootout ensues between the parties. After Levon kills them, he searches their bodies and discovers that they are from the Russian mafia. He takes the money they have and moves to wait in his car outside the house. After several hours, the car of the Russian mafia boss arrives and the boss enters Mark's house. He sees the bodies of his 3 men and realizes that the money they had was stolen. He goes crazy and desperately wants to know who did it. Then, the cleaning crew's car arrives to remove the bodies and clean the blood in the house. The Russian boss gets into his car and drives off, with Levon following him. The Russian boss arrives at his home and Levon stops in the forest, hiding among the trees. He films the Russian boss's house and sees him getting angry at his wife and hitting her. And she curses in Russian. After that, she takes her car and leaves. Levon breaks into the house, attacks the boss, and knocks him unconscious. When the boss comes to, he finds himself tied to a chair at the edge of the swimming pool. Levon has tied him with a rope and is pulling him closer to the pool. The boss says to him, "You have no idea who you're dealing with. My name is Vrif. Have you heard of me?" Levon said to him, "Yes, I've heard about you and your 4 brothers. You are the ones who run the Russian gang." So Vrif says to him, "So you know who we are, and yet you steal from us and kill our men?" Levon hits him in the face and says, "This hit is for hitting your wife," and throws the money he took from his men in his face, saying, "I'm not a thief like you think. I'm looking for this girl." Vrif speaks in Russian, but Levon didn't understand him. Levon interrupts and states to him, "Return the girl and I'll leave you alone." Vrif said to him, "All this you're doing is indeed for a girl?" and continues to insult Levon harshly. Levon got fed up with him, knocked him into the water and let him drown and die. It turns out Levon had recorded the Russian words Vrif said. Vrif was talking about a person named Denny and cursing Dimi, saying that what's happening is because of you. Levon wonders who this Dimi is, and then the second brother of the Russian leaders arrives. This one is the eldest among them, and he sees on the surveillance cameras Levon killing his brother. He wonders why Levon killed Vrif and suspects that Dimi, Vrif's son, is the reason. He orders his 2 sons to search for Levon and bring him. Meanwhile, Levon calls a friend who is an anti-narcotics officer and tells him, "I'm looking for someone named Dimi." The officer tells him, but Demi is from the Russian mafia and it's better not to deal with him. Levon replies, I have to deal with him because he's involved in human trafficking. The officer tells him about a specific bar that Demi frequents and advises him to go there as he might find Demi. Levon thanks him, hangs up, and wastes no time heading to that bar. He orders a drink to avoid suspicion, but Claire, who is monitoring the cameras, becomes suspicious of him, thinking he might be a police officer because he's carrying a gun in his pocket. She instructs her colleague Frank to go and confirm this. Frank indeed goes and sits next to him, and Levon gives him money saying, I need some banned substances. Frank tells him to follow him carefully, and they go to his boss, named Doug. Claire tells Doug that she cautiously suspects this man is a cop. Doug orders his men to thoroughly beat him and search him. They surround him to attack, but Levon is going to make them regret it. He grabs the first guy and breaks his bone. He continues to beat the rest without mercy, hitting them with all his strength. He was about to kill one of them, but Doug stops him and says, Enough, you've proven you're not a cop. When he shakes his hand, he realizes he's a builder and spares him, allowing him to sit down. Levon then requests to buy illegal substances from him every month, continuously, so I can distribute and sell them in my area. Dougie agrees and arranges to meet him at a specific place the next day to give him exactly the quantity he wants. The next day, he meets Claire and Frank at the agreed location, and they raise their weapons at Levon, ordering him to pay the money. Levon pays it calmly, and Frank tells him, We will get in touch with you to carefully tell you the place where you will very carefully pick up the goods. They did this to stay safe instead of having the police watch them and catch them exchanging money for contraband. Levon doesn't like this treatment and threatens them, saying, Don't you dare deceive me. He leaves them and walks away. After several hours, Doug calls Levon and tells him that the drugs are under your seat in the car. Levon indeed retrieves them, and after obtaining the contraband, he simply throws it into the water because that's not his goal. Meanwhile, Viper and Claire had drugged Jen and were taking her to a client who paid money to have a relationship with her. They had put her in a bag, and Viper and Claire were waiting until the client finished his time with Jen. But suddenly, the client appears, bleeding, and tells them, She attacked me. She was supposed to be asleep. Take her and leave. I don't want her anymore. At night, Levon hangs up all the evidence and information he has gathered. And Doug calls him, saying if he wants another batch, he must meet his boss. Levon agrees, and they arrange the time and place. The next day, Levon goes to meet Doug and his boss. To his surprise, the boss turns out to be Demi. When Levon finds this out, he is shocked and tells him, My name is Bill. Demi asks for his ID to verify it, and Levon hands it over without hesitation. Demi's man checks it and confirms that the ID is valid. Demi then gives him the bag containing the contraband. He tells him, If you need any more goods, just send me a message. Levon takes the bag and leaves. He goes to the bathroom and disposes of the drugs. Afterward, Levon returns home and looks through pictures of Jane with her friends from the day at the bar. He notices that there is a person focused on them and present in all the photos, and that is of course Fiber, who kidnapped Jane. He then picks up Mark's phone. He sees that he took pictures of Jane and sent them to his colleague. He goes through the photos he has and finds one taken with Fiber at Doug's bar. So he goes to the bar and notes down the number of gang members present. But what he didn't know is that Claire is watching him and sees him as he observes the place. She becomes suspicious of his intentions and calls her gang colleagues, who head towards him to kill him. However, Levon notices and steals a motorcycle to escape. They chase him with cars, trying to kill him, and Levon tries to escape from them as much as he can. But in the end, the motorcycle crashes in front of a police car. To his surprise, the police officers turn out to be working with the gang and they beat Levon, causing him to lose consciousness. The gang captures Levon, and when Levon regains consciousness, he finds himself tied up. The men tell him that Fariv, whom he drowned in the swimming pool, is their boss. Levon remains silent and suddenly attacks them, engaging in a fight despite his hands being tied. He manages to strangle the first one and fights with the second. Several shots are fired, and one of them kills the driver, causing the car to flip over and nearly sink into the water. Levon manages to kill both of them and escapes. Levon gets out of the car and pushes it into the water. The Russian boss, Yuri, receives the bodies of his two men and orders his men to prepare the gang's council because he wants to avenge his men. Later, Viper and his sister Claire meet with Demi. Demi scolds Viper because of what Jane did to the client, telling him that never before has a client been harmed by one of his girls. And this happened because of the girl Viper brought in. He says he doesn't like anyone messing with his business. They decide that he will be killed unless he kills Jane, and Viper agrees, taking his sister and leaving. Meanwhile, Yuri meets with the senior members of the Russian mafia and tells them that someone killed his brother and his two men, and he suspects that this person is working with Demi, especially since Demi is missing and they don't know anything about him. Yuri's brother tells him that he knows Demi's location and suggests taking the men to attack Demi. And indeed, that's what happens. The men beat Demi and Yuri tells him, "It seems you don't know that your father drowned and my men also died." Demi truly had no information, and Yuri shows him a picture of Levon and says, "This is the one who killed them, who killed." Demi is shocked and says to him, "I am still working with him, and I really don't know anything about him and have no connection to him." Yuri tells him to be careful because he wants to kill him. After that, the Russian gang searched for Levon and gathered all the information about him, and they find Grandpa Merritt's address and break into the house. Meanwhile, Levon receives a call from Merritt's school, and they tell him that no one came to pick up Merritt today. Levon is surprised and goes to the school to pick up his daughter to take her home. They were wondering why Ross hasn't shown up yet, and Merritt tells him that the location shows that Grandpa is at home. When they go to the house, they find it on fire, and Levon bravely breaks into the house and rescues Ross. Ross thanks him for saving him, and Levon tells him to go to the hospital and that he will take care of Merritt. He takes Merritt to Johnny's place and tells Johnny everything that happened. Johnny tells him that he has gotten himself into a lot of trouble, and since he started it with killing, he must end it with killing. He offers to help him and give him weapons. He takes him to his private weapons room and shows him all the weapons he has. Levon chooses the weapons he wants, and then he says goodbye to Merritt. He tells her that she will be absent from school and will stay with Johnny until he returns and things are fine. He hugs her and promises that he will come back to her. On the other side, Viper and Claire had taken Jane with them in the car and intended to kill her, but Jane suddenly hits them. Viper loses control of the car and they get stuck. Jane escapes from the car and starts running, not stopping until she is safe. She finds a police car and stops it. The policewoman tells her, "Come, I'll take you home," but it turns out that this policewoman is working with the gang. They return Jane to Viper and Claire, and they were about to kill her, but at the last moment, the client calls them and says, "I want Jane for another night at Demi's farm, and I'll pay $1 million for it." So Viper and Claire back off from the idea of killing her. At the same time, Levon storms into Demi's bar and starts killing Demi's men one by one. After finishing them off, he reaches Demi, shoots him in the hand, shows him a picture of Jane and asks him where she is. Demi tells him, "All this for a girl?" Levon replies, "I promised her I would be her support. Give me the address where she is and I'll let you live." So Demi says, "Take me with you and I'll lead you to the address myself." Levon agrees and they set off. Demi takes him to the client's farm and then Levon asks him why he specifically chose Jane. Demi says, "Viper goes to the bar a lot and takes pictures of pretty girls. And I send pictures of the girls to the clients. That's my livelihood. I don't care where the money comes from or how it's made. If I don't trade in girls, someone else will." Levon asked him, "Do you have children?" Demi replied, "No." Levon said, "That's why you'll never understand." And they pushed him into the water and killed him. He pulls out his weapons, to storm the place and rescue Jane. Doji receives a call and learns that Levon has killed a large number of Russians and went to Demi's murder scene. Doji decides to gather his men to go fight Levon. At that time, Levon kills the guards and enters the place. Viper and Claire had tied up Jane, and the client wanted to take revenge on Jane and injure her as she had injured him. But Levon throws a grenade into the place and opens fire on the Russian mafia men, and he kills them with great skill. But the problem is that seconds later, the dog's men arrive, and a shootout ensues between them and Levon. Levon takes out a large number of them, and Dog intervenes, fighting Levon with knives. Despite being huge, Levon manages to stab him and kill him easily. After that, he reloads his weapon and continues on his way. He hears Jane's voice, so he follows the sound and enters the room where the client is and kills him. Only Viper and Claire are left. As for Viper's bad luck, his gun is out of ammo and Levon enters and hits him. Jane strangles Claire with her legs and Levon breaks Viper's neck, killing him completely. Jane continues to strangle Claire until she kills her. But to their surprise, it turns out that the gang members are not finished yet. Levon frees Jane and they move, but they encounter the gang members on their way who open fire on them. However, Levon knows how to handle them and throws a grenade at them, finishing them off. They get on a motorcycle and finally leave safely, but Yuri was still alive and calls his brother, telling him that they must take revenge on Levon. However, his brother tells him to forget about revenge and that the girl Levon took doesn't concern them. If he insists on revenge, they will have to kill him themselves because the gang's interests are more important. Yuri is forced to listen to his brother and Levon takes Jen back to her home. Her family is overjoyed to see her and they thank Levon for what he did. After that, Levon goes to Johnny, greets him, and Johnny learns that his mission is complete. And here we reach the end of the episode.